Hi, my name is Jen. I am a 40-year-old full-time working mom. I work at the library. And my son is going to be turning 7 soon. The beginning of this year, I decided I wanted to make a game. So this is my first real attempt at creating a game. I started in January of 2020. I wanted to start out small because I have a rough idea of how much work goes into these projects. My previous experience was as a webcomics artist, creator, and a graphic novelist, so I know how grueling some of these projects can be. But I also have the tenacity to draw hundreds and hundreds of pages of story. So I was really interested in trying a different medium. I'm kind of done with comics, to be honest with you, but I still have stories to tell, and I've always been interested in visual novels, so I did dabble a little bit. I didn't get very far. Probably like 10 years ago, I dabbled in Ren'Py, and I didn't know anything about what I was doing. I was just throwing pictures and text into the project folder, replacing whatever default scripts were in there, trying to copy paste my way to something that was kind of a train wreck. This time around, I was teaching some kids some introduction to Python, and I'm not a programmer by any means, but I know a couple very basic concepts like, if and statements. And so I wanted to try making another visual novel. I'm working off of an old comic idea that I had, and it's kind of like a side character side story, and even this ended up becoming a way bigger project than I had envisioned. I really thought I was just going to kind of make something real quick as a throwaway project to get my feet wet. I always figured like the first thing you make in any new media is going to probably be garbage. So I'm like, well, let me get my garbage out of the way so that I can move on to things I really, really want to do. But at the same time, it's been a while since I've done anything creative, and I wanted to test my chops a little bit. I wanted to try to push myself to make this kind of small, unambitious project into the best small, unambitious project that I could make it. Well, enough about this introduction. Let me show you a little bit about the project itself. So, I am using Ren'Py. This is the development kit. Coffee Drip Studios was what I came up with because that's like my lifeline is coffee, really. I'm a terrible sleeper. This is the protagonist. I made the animation in AnimeFX. You can see my process on my YouTube channel. This is mostly all just default interface or default kind of GUI layout that you get when you install Ren'Py. I've customized some of the borders and the fonts, but again, I'm not really a good programmer by any means, so I try not to delve too deep into things that I don't understand. I have some screens in this game, and that took me a while to figure out. I'm going to jump into the part of the game that I'm currently developing, which is Chapter 3. The first 2 chapters are probably about an hour a piece to get through. The 3rd chapter is larger in scope, and I'm pretty excited about finally getting to where I think is the climax of the story. I'm planning on having it be 4 chapters total. Truthfully, when I was first laying out my timeline for how where I plan to be in development for this game, I was hoping to get Chapter 1 done for like maybe 1 companion by this time. I actually had fully implemented all 4 companion options in the very first build of this game. Let me go ahead and go back out so I can show you where this whole thing kind of started. So this is the old build of the game. This is the one where I had all 4 companions fully implemented in the first chapter. You can see here already, this is the default GUI that you get with Ren'Py before I changed any of the fonts or the frames or any of the kind of the frame outlines and stuff. And when you start this is all like placeholder art. Again, it's just all default text. And you can even see I have like an editing tool over here in the corner. I don't have any, like, this is the extent of my screens. Like, I just have these things here to be like, okay, I want to show certain stats or whatever. And I had this done, I had this just very, you can see as I'm answering the questions, my stats are going up. I had this very basic kind of like, build of the game, this first chapter done, I want to say like maybe in the first month or 2. So there wasn't a lot to figure out. This is all very, very easy basic stuff. This is all default GUI that comes with Ren'Py. I want to just get past some of this very introductory stuff. Apologies, these sound effects are terrible because I just kind of grabbed whatever free assets I could find and threw them in there to see if I could get the sounds to cue on, you know, the channels that I wanted. It's all just there for testing. And you can see that I have these animated character sprites. I went to school for animation. I have a love for 2D animation especially. So I really wanted to implement animation in some capacity. Now, the problem I have with these character sprites is that they are on a loop, and it's probably just because I didn't really know how to program them properly, but I didn't like how they constantly loop. It's like the looping is very obvious, and it kind of feels like they're floating underwater or something. I know a lot of live 2D games, especially popular on the mobile apps, just kind of let these loops go and they don't really mind, and maybe players are kind of used to seeing characters just kind of go through a cycle of still animation like they're in some kind of fighting game, but it sort of bothers me. It doesn't convey like what I want it to. So you'll be able to see in my new build of the game how all of this is kind of originated from the first build. And then I went through and probably spent a solid 2 months trying to get the GUI to come out the way I wanted it to. So let me go ahead and jump to the 3rd chapter that I'm currently working on. You can see I have a couple different screens here. This is the map that you navigate in this chapter. There's several different floors, and each floor there's several different rooms. The characters have these side portraits each, and the animation kind of like flips between WebM movie files and still PNGs, so that I don't feel like they look like they're just kind of constantly floating, but I do get to have like little moments of expressiveness. So if I go, let me see where this save file is at. Looks like I've already completed this first floor's objectives. So let me see if I've completed that. No, haven't completed the upper floor objectives yet. Let me go back up there. If I go into this room, now we're going to unlock some dialogue. And you can see as they're talking, they'll animate a little too. Tell them kind of give a little bit of tone to what they're trying to say. You'll notice that I no longer have them on transparent backgrounds. I found that having a transparency layer with the movie files was causing some latency issues that I wanted to try to avoid, so I went ahead and just kind of had them on these cards instead, and I found that the game just ran more smoothly when I was able to do that. I know it's a little unusual that the standard format for VNs, they tend to be character sprites on top of backgrounds. You can kind of tell already that the backgrounds are not like my main focus in this story, so there's nothing really to write home about. And then they can flip between the nice part about having them on their own separate kind of like card frame is that I can flip them to that more expressive close-up portrait, and then back to this kind of more mid-shot portrait kind of seamlessly no matter where they are. So I thought it was a fair trade-off. I wanted the main character to be a well-established character. He is not like a self-insert. So I think it's important for him to be on screen so the reader can see his expressions as well as the companion's expressions. It's just as important to the story, I think. And that's kind of the dialogue that comes up when we find kind of a key to unlocking some other part of the story that is not open. So even though I can freely go to any one of these locations, a lot of the special events in these locations are conditional on what variables you have unlocked. Well, thank you all for letting me introduce my game. I want to make some videos to just kind of discuss my development of this game. I am not a professional developer. I have no high aspirations to be some type of published success with a commercial game. I'm doing this for fun as a hobby, so it's probably not going to be that helpful to a lot of people who are starting out, but I feel like my story is still one that has a place for discourse. It's totally fine to create something as a hobby, and as a full-time working mom, it can be difficult to carve out that time, and I like to be able to help encourage people who might be in similar shoes as mine. There is a way to balance all these things. I feel like I've made a lot of progress in this game. I've got probably like 3 hours of gameplay. I've got animations, as you can see. I've got several backgrounds, lots of different menu options, lots of variables in this game. And honestly, considering I've only been working on it for 6 months, I'm not a programmer. Yes, I do have background in drawing and writing to a certain extent, but I'm not like I wouldn't say that I'm super strong in any one thing. My biggest strength is probably just my ability to make time to create. I'm disciplined. I have a lot of tenacity. So I hope that my videos documenting some of my development will be an encouragement to other creators who have stories that they would like to tell, but maybe feel like maybe suffer from a little imposter syndrome, like I do, and maybe they don't think of themselves as programmers or artists or writers. I don't really consider myself to be any of those things, although I guess art would be the thing that I spent the most time studying and trying to develop. So yeah, if I can do it, then you can do it too. And Ren'Py is a very beginner-friendly development kit. I highly recommend it. I also highly recommend maybe spending 5 hours learning some basic Python. If you have no knowledge of anything about coding, just to learn how to use variables and conditionals and things like that. It will help you a lot, and it will make your game more complete. You'll be able to do more, have more features, and have the story flow more easily. Especially if you're planning on doing something that is not completely straightforward, like a kinetic novel. My game, as you can see from like the map system, is not really linear. A lot of the events will unfold depending on what other events you have already triggered, but you can go through the game missing a lot of what I would consider optional kind of character building, world building dialogue if you just wanted to laser focus on just the objectives. I usually don't like putting myself out there. As you can see, I don't have time for makeup or presentation or anything, fancy, and all I have is like my honesty. I think that's probably my other strength, is that I feel like in my writing, my stories, my characters, they're all very honest to who I am and my worldviews and the kind of things that interest me. I don't really create with an audience specifically in mind. I just hope that there may be some like-minded person out there that can connect with the types of stories I have to tell. So yeah, this is probably not going to be the type of advice that most people who are thinking about going into making a visual novel necessarily want to hear. But I hope that it can be an encouragement that, hey, this 40-year-old woman who doesn't really know what she's doing, we could get this far. So hopefully when I finish this thing, which I think is one of the most important parts of starting any project, is having an end goal in mind and making that a manageable end goal. So I'm very confident that I will finish this. Shooting for the first 2 companions, complete storylines to be done by the end of this year, and then hopefully implementing the next 2 characters then another 6 months after that, since each companion is pretty much a completely different story in some ways. I mean, it hits all the same notes, but all the dialogue and all is completely different. And the main character kind of develops differently depending on who his companion is. So yeah, thanks for listening to me ramble, and good luck on any of your creative endeavors. Give yourself permission to enjoy the process. Bye.